Okay, I'm Kristen Henry. It's March 9th, 2001, and I'm interviewing Jesse Guajardo for the U.S. Latino and Latino World War II Oral History Project. We are sitting in Mr. Guajardo's home in Austin, Texas. And okay, here we go. On 8th Street. And basically, we're just gonna start up, about talking about like your family and how daily life was, and how school was, and then we'll eventually get to the 1940s and World War II. Do you like this, or do you want more Frank sounds? That's fine. Okay. If I see something, I'll see something. Yeah. After the whole thing. Can you just kind of start by briefly telling me where you were born?
Well, I was born in Pflugerville. Right. Acton Farm in Pflugerville, 4 miles southeast of Pflugerville. Up until about the age of 8. And I went to school there. Well, it was just a small school, where you'd have everybody in one room, the classes. And I went through there to the third or fourth grade, I think. Then I came into town because my brother operated a store here, just a block and a half from here on 9th and Lydia, right by Guadalupe Church. And he also used to be a produce peddler, He'd go all around the university campus. He had all the sorority homes around there, and he'd deliver vegetables to them. And then he started delivering all the groceries, not much groceries, but all the meats to all the sorority homes. I wouldn't say all of them, but, quite a few, because I used to go with him during school, after school. And during the summer months, when we didn't have any school, I used to ride with him in the truck. He'd buy him a new pickup every year. He'd fix it up, or he'd put a big old box, left a tailgate back, and put a big metal box, equipped with ice and everything, to keep all the perishable vegetables, And he used to also have a bell in front of the seat, a copper bell, real pretty bell. I wanted it, but I could never get hold of it. Anyway, I'd ride with him, and as we'd go through the alley, we'd ring the bell, and the customers would come out to the alley, the foot of the alley, and they knew what they wanted and what he had for them. So that's what we did most of the time. Plus, then if they needed something special for a party or something, they'd order meats, and we'd deliver it to them, And during all that time, well, I went to school here, I went to Palm School, used to be out here on East Avenue, First and East Avenue, which is now the name of, First Street now. They named it after Cesar Chavez. Well, that's Palm School. I went through there through the 6th grade. And I went to Allen Junior High. From Allen Junior High, I went to Austin High, University Junior High. I went to summer school there, And that was my life.
How was school? How was daily school life? And, what subjects did you like?
Well, I hated one subject very much.
Which was?
Algebra. I just couldn't stand it. And I used to have problems going to class all the time with algebra because I just didn't like it. And I wasn't interested in it, and I couldn't. I said, well, if I'm not going to be an engineer, I says, why should I take this, I mean, I like commercial math, I was good at that. But I never was interested in algebra. And my teacher, she used to get after me, but I don't know, I just couldn't see it. And I flunked it, And I could never, I just couldn't ever adapt to it. I just never did like it, you know. It just didn't make sense to me, you know, for what I wanted to do in my life. So since I was staying with my brother out here in the grocery store, you know, I kind of picked up the trade and I liked it, you know, and I was a real grocer man, you know. So finally, after I finished school, I decided I'd go and work for somebody else. So then he passed away, you know, so I made an application with Piggly Wiggly, which was HEB, you know. They bought out Piggly Wiggly, HEB, you know, so from Kerrville. And I started working with them before I went into the service.
What were your parents doing when you were, like, in grade school?
My parents? My father was retired already.
What have you done before that?
Yeah, he was a farmer.
Where did he farm?
In Pflugerville.
Okay, and then when he retired, did they come?
We came to Austin. We had a couple of homes here in Austin, you know, that he had built. He used to rent them. So we came to live in one of them, and we rented the other one. And, well, finally, my parents got up in age, and I lost my mother. And before I went into the service, you know, I think about a year before I left, I was 17, I think, when my mother passed away. And I went in when I became 18. Right after I was 18, they took me in. I didn't volunteer because I knew they were going to get me. I said, I'll just wait, you know. So they ain't had no problems taking me. I was sworn in. I became 18 the 25th of September. And I was sworn in November the 11th, 1943.
When you were still living with your family, how many did y'all share rooms? Did you have to share rooms with your brothers? Or?
Well, mostly my oldest brothers were married already. I only had another brother, which was he was in the Army. He was in the medical corps in the Army. He went in when Pearl Harbor broke out, you know, the war, you know. And he was one of the first ones, you know. And he served. Huh?
Which brother is this?
Emil. Emilio.
Okay.
The one lived in San Antonio. Of course, he passed away too. Well, all my brothers passed away. I'm the last one. And it was him, myself, and then I had a couple of sisters. The other two oldest were already married. But while my brother was in the service and I was in the service, my youngest sister got married. So that left me another sister at home, her and my father, you know. And that was it, you know, until I got out of the service. And I think we lived together for about 2 years. And then I got married. No, she got married. And then I got married. And then I left my father by himself, you know. So my sister, he stayed with my sister until he passed away. My sister Stella.
Okay, and Stella,
she's second to the oldest of the sisters.
Oh, okay. All right, and she lives here in Austin.
Huh?
And she lives here in Austin, or she lived?
No, she was here in Austin.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, when you went to school, were the schools integrated, or were they did you have to go to a Mexican American school? Or
well, let me tell you. 1 year, 1 or 2 years, I went to school in Manor because we moved in from Pflugerville to Austin, and my father couldn't adapt himself, just not doing anything here. You know, he was used to country life. You know, we used to have a lot of cattle and sheep, about 100 head of sheep, and about 30, 40 heads of hogs, and 300, 400 chickens, about 100 turkeys. We used to have everything in the country, you know. Big garden and everything. We used to raise our own vegetables and our own meats, you know. We had a choice of what we wanted to eat. You know, if we wanted lamb 1 week, we'd eat lamb. If we wanted pork, we'd eat pork. If we wanted beef, we'd eat beef, you know. We had all the poultry and everything that we wanted to, you know. So we went back to Manor because there was a nice farm there, owned by the Curries. I don't know, probably don't know, but they had a store down here on 6th Street, right downtown 6th Street. Used to name Humpty Dumpty store. And they made a killing. They were good grocerymen, but they were farmers too. He owned this farm, and he wanted my dad to buy this home, the farm, not buy it. He wanted the 2 homes here in Austin for that farm, But my father was getting up in age, and then my other brother, youngest brother that was in the Army, left. Only left me, and I was too young, and he didn't want to take me out of school, to work in the farm. So he says, no, he says, I don't think it's a wise thing to do, to give up my homes for this farm. Then I can't work it by myself, So he didn't make that deal. So we came back to Austin until he passed away.
The schools you went to, did you have to go to like?
Well, okay, I went to Manor School,
okay.
And there they did have segregation. They had the Mexican people in one school, and another building, and the blacks in another one. And the reason I didn't go to it because I was kind of light complected, and they didn't put me there. They put me with the rest of them. So I wasn't segregated, but it made me feel bad anyway. I felt bad. I said, and some of the other students kind of angry at me, because I was over there, and he said, no, I said, you want to be a gringo, and I said, no, it's not that. I said, so.
Did they ever make fun of you, or?
Well, yes, they did. Yeah, they did. But then when I came into, well, I was kind of lucky all the time, just like I said, maybe because I was sort of light complected, and a lot of people don't think that I go to Mexico and I can sit down in any place and have a drink or whatever, and I'll talk to anybody, and they says, you speak Spanish? I said, yes, They don't think I'm Mexicano, but I'm 100%, and I don't deny it, and I'm proud of what I am, and I always speak Spanish. I never give up my Spanish because that God gave me that, and language, and I'm not going to put it down, That's my priority. My son speaks Spanish too, because we taught him to, I see a lot of families that they have children and they don't even know how to say good morning in Spanish. It's a shame. It's a shame, I mean, they ought to be taught, I mean, speak their own language, And they say it while now in schools that they don't want them to teach too much Spanish because, well, I think Spanish is a very important language, Here in the United States and wherever you go, no matter, So there was some segregation, but it didn't affect me too much. It didn't affect me too much, but it did affect a lot of other people, students,
Okay, so you were 18 when you got into the Army.
Mm-hmm.
And how did that happen? I mean, kind of just describe like the events that led up to like what happened. Like, when did you get your draft notice and
What you mean when I was enlisted in the service?
Exactly.
Well, no, I was drafted.
Right. But when did you get your draft notice? Like, where were you?
I was drafted when I became 18, I was 18 September the 25th, and November the 11th I was sworn in San Antonio.
And what, I mean, how did you feel when you were like, oh, I have to go into the military?
Well, I was, that was my first time being that I was going to be away from home, my first experience, And I was just a young, never been, my parents were very strict with us, I mean, they wouldn't let me go out anywhere, So I was kind of very attached to home, you know. And of course, it was an experience, quite an experience for me.
Where was the first place you went once you were drafted?
From here, I went to San Diego. I took my training there, boot camp training, and then
How was boot camp?
6 weeks, 8 weeks, I think. I don't know, maybe 8 weeks. Anyway, after that, I went to gunnery school at the destroyer base in San Diego, right by the ocean. I went there for 3 months, and from there,
What do they teach you at gunnery school?
everything about a gun, how to fire it, how to disassemble it, how to point it or whatever, because they have all kinds of, you know, we're not talking about more or less, yes, they teach you the M&M 30-30s, rifles and all of that, you know, M1s, but we didn't do too much of that. Our training was mostly on big guns, you know, like 45s, 3-inch 50s. It's got a barrel about that big around, you know. The projectile itself weighs 55 pounds, you know.
Wow.
And I mean, the round, you have to put asbestos gloves. The shellman that catches the shells, the empty shells, when the gun fires, it has a recoil of about 28 inches. That's how far it recoils back when it fires. And the shell shoots out of the breech, you know. And he has to have asbestos gloves from here to over here and make sure that the shell, when he catches it, doesn't hit his face or anything, because it's real hot. It might burn you. See, that's why you have to wear asbestos gloves. And then they had like boxes, leaning sort of like that, with racks, you know, inside where the empty shells fit. They'd open those, and you just slip your empty shell in there, you know. So we had 4-inch 50s, 3-inch 50s, 2-inch 50s, 5-inch 38s, 38 millimeters, 50 millimeters, 20 millimeters, all, you know, big guns, you know.
What were those used to fire at?
Planes or ships or anything out in the ocean, you know. And when you fire them, we used to practice fire on the ocean on a ship as we were going to wherever we were going, you know. And we'd get out there and practice fire, and when that projectile hits the water, I mean, it's just like a big old splash as high as a Capitol, you know, comes up, you know, from the concussion of the shell, you know. A very powerful gun. I mean, that's the best gun the Navy's got, the 5-inch 38. It's the anti-aircraft gun, you know, and it's used for planes mostly, you know. And you have your pointer, your trainer on one side. The pointer points to the object. He points the barrel, you know, elevates the barrel up and down to where the object is. You know, he points it. The trainer trains it around, you know, to the object. You see, it's all done by battery electricity, you know.
So how many people does it take to run
8.
one? 8. Wow.
8 to a gun turret.
Okay, so there's the pointer, there's
The trainer, the shell man that catches the shells, the one that brings the shells to the boxes and feeds, you know, and the one that puts it into the chamber, you know. Well, I can't explain more or less, but it takes 8 of them, you know, to operate one of those big guns, you know. And that's why they're mounted. All those guns are mounted on aircraft carriers, battleships, destroyers, cruisers, you know. They're anti-aircraft guns, you know. But it's a beautiful gun. It's the best anti-aircraft gun the Navy's got, the 5-inch 38. A beautiful gun.
It sounds impressive.
And when it goes off, it shakes the ship, you know.
Really? So we shake the whole ship?
Oh, yeah.
How did that feel when like, what kind of shaking is it?
Well, you have to wear earmugs. Or else it bust your eardrums, you know. it jars you, you know. It's big concussion, you know. It's a loud gun.
It's like a booming noise, or
And when it bursts up in the air, you know, that you fire into the object, it makes a big, like a ring of smoke, you know, black smoke, you know.
we learned all this at gunnery school when you were working.
Mm-hmm.
Since the very beginning.
It was a very interesting school, you know, because just like I said, you have to learn the mechanism of the guns, how they operate, how to take them apart, how to maintain them, just the jillions of things, you know. So I went in, from there I went, after I finished my training, I went, they shipped me to San Francisco, Treasure Island, for further orders to wait on a ship. Right away, it didn't take me too long. In about 2 weeks, I was on the ship going overseas. My first trip was to New Guinea.
This was on the Lexington?
Huh?
This was on the Lexington? Or was that
No, that was on the first ship I got on, MS Pennant, was a transport.
And so,
We were out 8 months, the first trip.
what kind of trip was the transport? Is it just?
It's a big ship.
We
carried 5,500 troops, equipped, plus the ship's personnel.
Wow.
And
that's from San Francisco all the way to New Guinea?
mm-hmm. It took us 28 days.
How was it being on the ship for that long?
Oh, you get tired. You wake up in the morning, you see nothing but water. You go to bed at night, you see nothing but water. You don't see no land. That is when I was in, because the ships never went close to land, inland, you know. The closest we ever got was on that trip was Hawaii, and we didn't get off. We just went to the Bay Area and anchored for about an hour or so, and then we pulled out again. But when you get out in the ocean, during World War II, well, then back in World War II, they didn't have these modern ships, nuclear ships like they have now. You know, now the aircraft carriers that they make, they're nuclear, you know, and they're more advanced. You know, one of those new aircraft carriers can make 65 miles in the water. That's pretty fast for a ship like that. And you know, those aircraft carriers that they have now are 3-foot ball fields long. It's just like a shop. You can go inside, have a shopping center. They have everything you want in it.
The ones now.
Right.
What about the ones when you were on?
Well, they weren't that modern. They were more or less warships, you know. I mean, you know, they didn't think about having good times then, you know. I mean, now it's a pleasure, you know, being in one of those, you know.
What were the living quarters like?
Oh, the quarters? Well, each gun crew would have a quarter, 8 to a quarter, 5, anywhere from 6 to 8, depends on the size of the quarter, you know.
How was like the sleeping?
2 bunks or 3 bunks, more or less 2 bunks to a quarter. I mean, at each one, you know.
And how much stuff did you take with you, or did you take anything at all?
Well, yeah, you'd have a sea bag. They'd call it a sea bag. We'd keep all your clothes, but when you got on a ship, you had lockers, you know. You didn't have too much, just blue jeans. That's more or less you could wear out there, you know. Blue jeans and the blue denim shirts, which the Navy has. I don't know if they still have them or not, you know. But during World War II, they did, you know.
Did you bring anybody's picture with you, or did you bring any like trinkets or good luck charms or anything?
No, you couldn't too much because you couldn't get them on. You couldn't get them aboard on the ship, and you couldn't get them off the ship. You know, they were pretty strict about what you could bring. Right?
Oh wow! So you really didn't get to bring.
No, I didn't. I could have, I guess, you know, but I said no. I don't want to get in trouble. You know, so I didn't bother with anything really. A lot of sailors did, you know, but I I've always been the type that I don't like to get in trouble. I like to do what's right. So
What was your uniform like?
when I was in the Navy,
Mm-hmm.
well, my every day was blue jeans and a blue denim shirt and my hat, white cap, and if I go ashore on leave, I'd have the blue Navy suit, with stripes, and a hat. Well, just like you see me there,
Yeah.
on that picture. Uh, and that's about it.
What kind of shoes did you wear?
Black shoes. There were plain uh, black shoes, real pretty shoes. They were nice shoes.
Were they comfortable?
Oh yeah, they'd keep a real good polish, and that's one thing about the Navy, man. You have to be. They're very disciplined, Navy is very disciplined, and not only that, but the Navy I think is one of the best branches of the service because uh, they feed you good, have good food, It's not like the Army or you eat out of rations and stuff like that, Well, we ate good in the mess hall, on the ship, they give you everything, It was real good. It was real nice.
What kind of food did you eat on the ship?
Well, different. It depends, One day, like for Fridays, they would give you fish, Uh, we'd have steaks, all kinds of steak. Uh, a good cut of steak or beef patty or baked potato, vegetables, all kinds of vegetables, fresh milk, you know. I mean, they feed you a good variety of food,
Did it taste good?
Oh, yes, yeah. They had good cooks, good cooks. And the enlisted man had a different mess hall, separated from the officers' mess hall. But
were you an officer eventually?
I was a petty officer, third class petty officer.
What did you? Is there any like one food or anything that you just really missed from home?
One what?
Food that you just missed when you were on the boat?
Not really, I don't think. I love Mexican food. I was brought up with it and raised with it, and it's my number one to me, I love it. I like good enchiladas, When I go to San Antonio, we just more or less go out there to have something to eat, We go to Tomatillos, on Broadway. That's a very good restaurant. You ever been there?
I think I have. There's so many restaurants
Yeah.
in Andrea.
It's nice. There's some good food there. I've been to a lot of them downtown and everywhere, I've been to Mitierra, But Mitierra's got too commercial now. I mean, it's just packed when you go in there. You have to wait forever to get in there, And Tomatillos, I like it because it's more relaxing, And they serve good food. They got good food there. I liked it. I went not too long ago, and it was real good. Real good.
So did you miss that kind of food, kind of?
I sort of, in a way, yeah.
Okay, so you got to New Guinea, and what happened when you got to New Guinea off the first transport?
Well, we just docked. I mean, we never went ashore because they wouldn't give you permission to go ashore because they say we may have orders to pull out of here any time.
Could you tell what New Guinea looked like? Did you have an impression of it, or?
Go what?
Could you tell what New Guinea looked like, or what did the shoreline look like, or?
I didn't understand you.
From the boat, what did New Guinea look like?
Oh, well, just mountains around, and water. That's all you see, and lots of palm trees. That's all it is in New Guinea. It's nothing but jungles. Huge pine trees. There's nothing but jungles, Natives, That's all there is there. And they had a couple of docks where the ships would go and unload, you know, ammunition or whatever they needed over there to build, so that the American forces could fight, you know, I mean, the war, you know, because there was nothing in those islands, just, you know, just bare islands, you know, just nothing but natives lived out in the jungles, you know. So they had Australian people, Aussies, unloading the ships, you know.
Did you meet any people from other countries?
From Australia. Australians, you know. They were nice people. The Australians are very nice people. Very humble, very nice.
Did you make any friends that you kept, or did you just kind of...
No, well, no, we didn't have that much time, because once, I think we went ashore once there, or twice. I'm not too sure. I think it was twice. And they would have, the only entertainment they would have, they would build like a small theater, just a stage, you know, and they'd call it a theater, way out in the jungles over there. And they'd tell us, they said, well, they said, y'all can go, but y'all have to be back at a certain time. So we'd go to the movies, you know. But the only way you could go, you'd have to catch a ride with the trucks that would travel around the islands, from one island to another, to Americans. That was American forces. Big trucks loading this, transporting this from this island to this other one, you know. So the American people could have the essentials to fight war with, see. And the only way we could, they wouldn't stop for you. The only way we could, if it was slowed down, we'd jump and get a hold of the sides, you know. And we'd go and get off at the theater and do the same way coming back, you know. But if you were left out, you were left out. In those jungles out there dark at night, you would know where you were at.
What kind of movies did y'all watch?
What kind of what?
Movies.
I'd even done forgot. Well, they had all these movies about the old movies, you know, like big stars like Tyrone Power and what's his name? A singer that died, old Ben Crosby, and movies like sort of like that, you know. Every now and then we saw a good live show. The USO used to go and perform, you know, for the Navy out there, you know.
What were those shows like?
Dancers and singers. Not too much of a stripper, because back in those days they didn't believe in that. You know? But that was about it, really. That was the only entertainment for. But one time I shipped out, I didn't get off the ship for 8 months.
So so from New Guinea, is that when you got your assignment on the Lexington?
No, I was on the MS Pennant.
Oh no, but when did you get your assignment on the Lexington?
On the Lexington, 1944.
Okay.
I think. Yeah, 1944 until 45.
Okay, so you went to New Guinea, and y'all docked there, and then where did y'all go?
Well, from there we went up all the islands, all the way up to Leyte, Samoa, the Marshall Islands. There's so many islands that I can't. That's why I wish I had the map. I could give you a list about like that, you know.
And what were y'all doing? What were your daily activities?
Well, we'd stand watch. You have to stand watch 4 hours a day, you know. I had from 12 to 4 in the morning.
How'd you stay awake?
Well, I had to. You know, I was up with the captain up on the bridge. I had a bridge watch way up on top, you know. The captain is here, and I was right here on the wing, you know, off the ship, looking right down the water, you know. Because the gun turrets kind of extend out away from the ship, you know. And you're out there with your phones, you know, and you're just watching. If you see an object or anything, you report it to the bridge, you know.
Wow. Did you ever see anything when you were on?
Oh yes, yeah. I saw a submarine, the scope of a submarine, one time. But it sunk back, you know, and what we did then, we started zigzagging, you know, going this way and that way to so he couldn't pick up our course, you see.
Was that, I mean, was that like, were you nervous? Was it kind of scary, or?
Well, I guess you do get nervous, you know, scary, because if you ever get torpedoed out there, man, you had it. You had it. You better start swimming if you can. But you don't swim too much, I'll tell you, because they couldn't get nowhere. There's too much water out there. But they have rafters, you know, from the ship slanting at a 45-degree angle that you pull a pin, and those rafters just slide out in case a ship gets torpedoed or going to get sunk or something, you know. Those rafters, big old rafters, just slide down into the water like that. And then what they teach you is when you're training, they teach you how to jump from an altitude about 30, 40 feet into the water.
Wow.
Straight down, you know, just put your arms like this and your feet together and just drop straight down into the water, because if you open up your arms like that, it could break your arms, you see.
Oh, my.
So they teach you all of that. It says if the ship is sinking, try to jump as far out as you can away from the ship, because the suction of the ship is going down, it can pull you in, you see. So you kind of have to jump away, much way out from the ship, you see, and get a hold of a rafter as soon as you can.
Did you ever have to do that when you were out?
No.
Did any of you, so none of your ships, it was only y'all saw it and y'all avoided getting?
No. Well, I was in a raid. Now, when I got on the USS Lexington, we was in a raid in Manila. We just landed there. We went to Bataan and Corregidor. In between Bataan and Corregidor, they were just getting General MacArthur off the island, you know, Bataan. And we were just passing right through it, you know. Corregidor is here, Bataan is here. And we were going into the bay, you know. So we anchored, and about 45 minutes later, an hour later, there's a raid. The sirens went off. It was almost dark. Here comes the Japanese planes just firing, you know, missiles. Tracers, you could see all the tracers hitting the water. So, we had to go man the guns. We had to go run into our gun turrets and man the guns and get ready, you know. And you could just see the tracers hitting the water like that, and the gun turret around the gun, you know, or the gun, you could see the tracers hitting there, you know. And then all the guns, big cannons from the beach, they had big cannons mounted from the beach firing right over the ships like that, you know.
Are tracers red? Is like red light? Is that what it looks like? What is it?
Well, they're bullets, you know. They call them tracers, you know.
But like when you're looking out in the water,
What
does it look like?
Well, they hit the water. You could see them hitting the water. Spots, yeah. But it lasted about 30 minutes, and it was over, you know. But
what was it like? Like, what were your feelings like when you were in that like gun turret and there's a raid?
well, I mean, you really don't think about anything other than doing your job, you know. I mean, you don't think about anything as well. You're afraid or anything. I mean, you just don't think about that, you know. You just concentrate on what you're doing, you know.
What was the outcome of the raid? What happened?
Well, nothing happened much, you know, because it didn't last too long. It was just a raid that went over the island, you know. It's at dawn, you know. But there was so many guns from the beach firing, you know, that you couldn't really tell, you know. And it was almost dark, you know, so.
Did y'all shoot down any planes?
Well, I imagine they did, but you couldn't see them, you know. It was already getting dark, you know.
How did the was the pointer set? How did you figure out where to shoot if you couldn't see?
Well, more or less, you know, you can hear the object, and probably you could spot some of them, you know, but it's just, I mean, you just have to fire whatever you think you can see. I mean, you know, or whatever you can do, you know, because most of the raids were at night over there, you know.
raiding that area?
Well, at the time you could see about 25, 30, you know. But mostly the Americans had, our forces had guns, big guns, cannons mounted on the beach, you know, to protect the island and protect all the armed forces there, you know. Uh, from there we went to Cebu, further up through the Indian Ocean, you know, and the Indian Ocean is purple. The water is purple. It's so deep. They claim, I read in books that say that that's one of the deepest oceans there is, 14 miles deep. The water's purple. I mean, that's the way it is. And I went to the Pacific, you know. The Pacific is blue. You get down to the Coral Sea, and it's just like somebody drawing a line, just like this right here. This is blue, this is red, coral. I mean, it's amazing how that water stays in that particular section, that color, and this other color here. And then after you cross the Coral Sea, then it changes back to blue, you know.
And then when you cross into the Indian Ocean.
And then the Indian Ocean is purple, you know, so deep, you know. Well, we went in from Cebu, we went into a big convoy, about a 50-ship convoy at night. We traveled all night long. Cruisers, battleships, destroyers, transports, aircraft carriers, you name it. It was just like, all you could see at night, we had a full moon, and all you could see just black objects, you know, all over. And the destroyers, what they do, they guard the fleet, see? So they go this way, since they're very fast ships, you know, they can travel pretty fast. They'd go this way, cut in front of you this way, they'd go this way, back and forth, just picking up sounds, see if they any submarines or anything, you know.
So you got on the Lexington after it already been in the Battle of the Philippine Sea. Is that book?
On the Lexington.
Right.
Yeah.
That was you
Right.
got on there after that.
Right.
Happened?
Right.
Okay. What was everyday life? What did you do on the Lexington? When did you become a petty officer?
Well, my job was to man the crew, that belonged to my gun turret, you know, which was 8. I'd have to see that we'd take training, that we'd practice, and every day we'd practice to see what we were doing in case we had to fire the guns. And cleanliness, you had to clean the guns, polish them, you know, make sure that everything was perfect, you know. And then you didn't have much time other than take care of your clothes. You had to do your own washing, you know, all of that. And then you had to stand an 4-hour watch a day, you know. So you didn't have much time really to fool around on a ship, you know. You were always busy.
What did you do in the little free time that you had, if you had free time?
What did I do? What?
If you did have free time, what did you do?
There wasn't much to do. You couldn't go anywhere. Maybe just walk around the ship or play cards, if you like to play cards, you know, or dominoes or anything. I never did. I never was a gambler, so I never knew how to. I still don't know how to play poker, so I've never been a gambler. I like to go to Las Vegas and play the slot machines, you know, but I don't know anything about gambling. And I was never much interested in gambling, you know. Oh, well, that's what we did in somewhere in our quarters, you know. We didn't have much to do, and we get paid. Well, we didn't get paid much because when we were out at sea, they didn't pay us until we'd come in to port, see. And but we always had a little money. Everybody had a little money, so we said, let's shoot some dice. Well, one time I did try it, and I lost $50 just like that. So I quit. I didn't play anymore. So that was the end of my gambling, and I never did gamble anymore because And there was guys that did. They'd shoot dice and or play poker, you know, while they had time off, you know, something like that. They didn't have anything to do, you know. But I was never interested in doing that.
Did you really like the sea? Like,
yeah, I love the ocean. I liked it. I never got seasick. There was a lot of them got seasick. I never got seasick. Never bothered me because I love water. I guess that's why I love to go to California a lot. Because I like to see the water. I like to see the blue Pacific, you know.
Was we had talked about earlier if there was any segregation in school. Was there any segregation within the military? Was it different because you were Mexican American, or?
Well, I don't. Well, if there was, I couldn't tell too much or couldn't see too much because I guess it was something different that it didn't matter what color you were. You had to do your job, you know, and that was it, you know. I mean, so I really didn't pinpoint that much, you know. But I guess it was in a way, in a sense, probably, you know. It's probably maybe in getting ratings, you know. You know. But it's hard to get a rating.
What's a rating?
Your stripes, you know, when you're going up for a higher rating, you know, you take examinations, you know, and if you have an officer or a boatswain mate, because a boatswain mate is higher, you know, a boatswain mate is almost next to an ensign in the Navy, you know, then you get gold stripes, bars, you know. It's up to him, you know, if he likes you and he gets along with you, I guess it makes it easier for you to get a rating, you know. If he doesn't like you, he won't give you a rating, you know. So, yeah, we did have a lot of boatswain mates in the Navy that I had one from Bakersfield, California. He wasn't too good. I mean, he was good, but he just didn't. He wouldn't do anything for you, you know, to help you, you know, or to get ahead. He wouldn't seem like he kept you from getting promotions, you know. So
what did he do?
He was a gunner's mate third. Then he became a boatswain mate. He was in charge of all the gun crews, you know. But it was nice to me. I mean, it was a great experience for me. I learned a lot, and being my first time out of the house, you know, I guess I began to grown up, you know, feel like a grown up, you know. We'd go downtown on leave, you know, after we'd get back to the States, and we'd go to the nightclubs, and I couldn't go in. They wouldn't let you in, you know, because you weren't 21.
Oh, okay.
So they used to call me baby aboard ship because I was the smallest one, you know. And they said, baby, it's just kidding between us here. And we'd go to the nightclubs, and some would get on this side, some would not get in the middle here. So, yeah, you go on through, you know. So I'd go inside with them, you know. And that's the only way I could get in, you know. Otherwise, they wouldn't let you in.
Where did y'all go ashore that y'all visited?
Oh, anywhere in San Diego or Oakland, San Francisco, Chinatown, all over, you know. They have a lot in Chinatown. You have all kinds of clubs, you know, nightclubs. I mean, good clubs too. I mean, give you good shows and everything. In San Diego, we went to a real good burlesque show. I mean, about 30 girls, you know, beautiful girls, you know, and that was most or less the shows that they had. I used to go dancing a lot. I used to go to all the ballrooms dancing because I love dancing. I love music, you know. And I used to have a good time just going dancing.
What kind of music did you listen to?
Well, ballroom music. Back in those days, well, all you had is, they didn't have all this fancy music that they have now, you know, wild music. I call it wild. To me, I mean, some of it doesn't have. I like good country western, classical country western, you know. But some of this music they have now, it doesn't have any meaning to me, really, because it just don't. I mean, it just doesn't. It doesn't appeal to me, you know. Like music, like from the old back days, old where they had all these good orchestras, you know. Glenn Miller, Sammy Kaye, Jan Garber, Tommy Darcy, Gene Krupa, Cap Calloway, all those bands, you know. I used to see them out there at the Golden Gate Theater in San Francisco on Broadway. Well, I had a good time while I was in the Navy. I don't regret it really. I think it was a great experience to me, and I grew up, you know, and when I got out, I felt like I was more a man, you know, than when I went in. I was just a kid. Never went out of the premises of the house, you know. So I learned a lot, and it was a great experience to me.
We'll go back to our chronological.
Okay.
Okay, you went from after the raid in Manila. Did you feel any different because it had been like live battle, or was it?
Well, it wasn't really a battle. It was mostly raids. When we got in Manila, Manila had just been taken, you know, and it was all torn up, you know. I like Manila. I wish I could afford to go back there, you know, and see it now.
What did it look like then?
Oh, it's a nice city.
What?
Oh, well, all the buildings were shot down, you know, falling down, rock bricks everywhere, you know. I mean, it was just torn, you know.
What did it smell like? What did it smell like?
Well, I couldn't recall. I mean, you know, because we didn't go ashore that much, you know. If we did, we went for about a couple of hours and had to get back. So you didn't have much time to do anything. Well, there wasn't much to do because it was pretty much destruction there, you know, during World War II. But Manila's a beautiful city.
What made it beautiful?
Well, the island, I think. It's a pretty island. And the people were real nice, the Filipinos, you know.
Did you ever eat any Filipino food?
Huh?
Did you eat any Filipino food?
No, I didn't want to, you know. No. Because I didn't know what I was eating, so I never did, you know. I'm kind of careful that I need to know, see what I'm going to eat or what I'm going to eat.
So you went from Manila and you went to Cebu, and then.
Well, when we got to Cebu, then they declared the war. Ended VJ Day, and we were anchored out in the bay, and you could just see about thousands and thousands of Japanese coming down from the mountains with flags, you know, surrendered, you know, that the war was over, you know.
When you were, this was on Cebu.
In Cebu. So then our captain said, well, before the war, the Japanese surrendered and declared the war was over, I was in the hospital there. They took me off the ship because I had a pain on my side, and I think it was my appendix. But the captain told me, he says, we can put you out here in the hospital. And the hospital was just a big tent, you know, with beds, you know, and in an island. I was there 2 weeks. And finally the captain went to see me at the hospital, and he said, Guajardo, says, how you doing? I said, well, I seem like I feel better. He says, well, I'll tell you what, we're fixing to go back to the States now that the war is over. And to make you feel better, you and somebody else has got the only ones that ready to leave 28-day leave when you get back to the States. So he said, you think you can make it back? I said, yeah. I said, I'm ready. I wasn't feeling that well either, you know. I said, well, I'll take a chance. They may have to throw me out there in the ocean. I don't know, you know. But we did bury about 7 people out in the ocean.
What happened?
Casualties. Well, when I was on that transport. See, it's kind of hard for me to remember all these things from one ship to the other.
What
but
happened? What happened on the train?
Well, we carried about 300 injured troops, you know, from the islands over there, New Guinea, Leyte, and all those islands, all the way up to Samoa and all the way up to Australia and Cebu, and we loaded them up in stretchers. You know, they'd carry them up in stretchers because they were all wounded, you know, and a lot of them were pretty bad. We buried 7 out at sea, and the way they do it, they stop the ship at sundown. They wait until sundown, they stop the ship, and then they make, the carpenter mates make boxes, wooden boxes, and then they put those big chain links, anchor chain links, weights inside of them. So when they put them over the keel of the ship, you know, they'll just slide down and sink into the water.
How did that make you feel when you had to bury someone?
Well, we have to pay tribute to them. They sound taps, you know, and play taps, and the ship is stopped completely. They don't anchor anything. They just stop the ship until it's finished moving, you know, and they take it up to the bow. The box. It's not a coffin. Well, it's a box, you know. Not filled, but they put big old chain links, the anchor chain links. I mean, they're about that big around, you know, thick, you know, so they're pretty heavy. So they put them inside, and with a crane, they put the box on the keel of the ship, and they just let it down, and it goes straight down into the water.
Was this the first time that you kind of seen, like, I mean, did you see, like, dead bodies and stuff? Or was it the first time that you had, or?
Well, they tell us, this is, we got several bodies. I don't think they're going to make it, you know. And we were probably about 2 weeks away from the States, you know. So they, no way they could. And see what happens. Then, I mean, I say to myself, because I've seen it, you know, a lot of funerals happen here after I was discharged, you know. And they tell the families, they says, we're going to ship the bodies, you know. Well, a lot of those bodies don't come, you know. They just tell the parents. That's why they can't open the caskets or anything, you know. They just send a casket with American flag, but the body's not in there, really. In most cases, it's not, you know. Well, you know, during World War II, they killed thousands of Americans, you know. Well, how are they going to bury thousands and thousands of soldiers, men that are dead, killed? How are they going to take care of that many? So what they did, you know what they used to do? They used to with the tractors, caterpillars, they'd dig a big old hole, and they'd bury all the bodies in there, and then just put a cross in there.
Wow.
That's what they did during World War II. And see, and then they tell the families out here, we're shipping the body. Ain't no bodies in those coffins, you know. Ain't no bodies in there. I mean, they make you think that, you know, but there's no bodies in there. 9 times out of 10, there was, you know. They were all down there in a big hole out there in the islands, you know, where they're still there, you know. I mean, because there was a lot of people killed during World War II. Bombs killed thousands of people, you know. I mean, there's no way that they could ship all those bodies. Just like I said, the ones we buried out there, how are they going to get them back to the States out here? When they're way down, I don't know how many miles down into the ocean, you know. Sharks done ate them up, you know. It's something that I saw it. I mean, I know because I seen it. I saw it. There's no way that they can tell the people that the bodies are there. All they do is just put them in a casket. Now they do. They have more ways of doing it now than in World War II, because we're not in war. And during war, it was harder, you know. You didn't have all that time to fool around, you know, doing things like that, you know. Now, if somebody gets killed over there, sure. Now I do believe that, sure, the body's there, you know. Depends on how he was killed, you know. Sometimes probably if he was shot out there in the jungle, you'd never find him, you know. And what they tell the people, they said, well, we're shipping the body. But there's no bodies in there. Just the casket with the American flag, that's all.
Did you lose any friends during the...
Did I have any friends?
Did you have any friends, and if so, did you lose any during the war? Or?
Well, yes, I have a lot of friends that lost some of their families out there, you know, some of their brothers. I know a lot of them. Of course, I would never say anything like that to anybody, you know. But it did happen, you know, and I just don't see how people think that the bodies are there. There ain't no bodies there.
What about did you make any friends in the Navy while you were in the Navy that ended up being really good friends with you for the rest of your life, or who were your good friends?
Yes, I did. I had some real good friends, shipmates, you know, that I made good friends. And of course, some I didn't because, you know, there was all kinds of people aboard ship when you were out at sea, you know. You didn't know who they were. You didn't know where they come from, you know. I mean, so you kind of more or less had to be careful who you pick. Now, a lot of times we'd come into port and we'd go out on leave. And I mostly, not too often, I went out with a friend of mine, a couple of friends of mine. One was from Ted Fotis from Chicago. He was a real nice guy. And another one from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. But mostly I went out by myself because I felt that I could take care of myself much better than going out with a group. Because when I went out with a group, just like I said, a lot of them don't think like you think, or the way you want to think, you know, or the way you want to be. They'd go out there and drink and get in trouble and get in fight and wind up in the brig. Well, if they catch you along with them too, they put you in there too, without having anything to do. So I said, no. I said, I don't want to be in that predicament. I said, I'd rather travel by myself.
Okay, you can start again.
So mostly I used to, instead of going out with my friends, I used to go out by myself. I said, that way I know that I won't get in trouble, because I'm not going to look for trouble. So I was mostly careful where I used to go by myself at night everywhere around San Francisco, Chinatown, Oakland, Richmond, Alameda, all those places, because, and I never got in trouble. But if I saw that there was trouble, I'd stay away from it. You know, that's the kind of person I am, and I'm still like that. I don't want anybody that causes me trouble or anything. You know, I stay away from people.
When you went out in these places, did you deal with any kind of discrimination?
With it?
When you went out in San Francisco or Oakland, did you deal with any of that, or was that a problem?
Oh, yes, there was a lot of that. I mean, you'd see I'd come to the ship, or I'd come if I was on the ship, still on the ship, or I was taken off the ship there in Treasure Island waiting for another assignment. They would come in the morning and say, hey, yeah, you know who got in the brig last night? What's his name? Well, one of our shipmates. Well, I knew they were going to do that. That's why I wouldn't go out with them, you know. So it was a lot of that. You have to be careful who was your friend and who you hanged around with, you know.
But when you went on the mainland, did you get any discrimination because you were Mexican American?
No. And if I did, I don't recall it, but I don't think so, no. They were more or less. They were more or less nice to you because, well, they respected you and they thought a lot of you because you were serving your country, you know. And I used to go to during the day when I had to leave or something. I'd go downtown San Francisco, down Broadway, and there used to be a lot of USO shows, and they have nice girls out there, you know. They give you all kinds of food, drinks, whatever, you know, and they'd have a big jukebox there, you know, and you'd get to play it and dance with them, you know, and had something to do. Well, you know, there was nothing much during the day, you know. So I used to do that a lot, you know. I used to have a good time and I used to enjoy it, you know. And I knew I wasn't going to get in trouble, you know, so that's where I spent most of my time when I was ashore, you know.
Going back to VJ Day, where were you on the Lexington at the time?
Right.
Okay. What was it like?
Well, to me it was a great feeling to see all those Japanese coming down from the mountains surrendered, you know. And secondly, because I was feeling so bad, and I didn't know if I was going to make it back or not, you know. And I didn't know if I was going to need an operation or not, you know. And, well, I was just praying to God that, you know, I could give me strength and health to get back to the States, you know, where I could be much confident, you know, have more confidence in myself, you know, and the doctors and all, you know.
So you went from, after VJ Day, you went to the hospital, and then...
I went back aboard ship.
You went back aboard ship.
And then about a week later, we sailed in to the States.
Was that on the Lexington or was that on a transfer?
At Lexington.
And how was the welcome when y'all got back?
Oh, well, you get a very nice welcome, especially coming in under the Golden Gate. You know, you stand up in front of the bow, lined up, you know, with all your dress suits on, whatever, you know, and it's just a beautiful sight coming into San Francisco. I never forget that. That's why I love San Francisco so much. I never get enough of watching the bridges and the water, and I don't know, it's a very picturesque city to me.
Well, I mean, kind of describe it to me, or describe how you were feeling when you...
Well, it seemed like it made me feel much better than what I was feeling. I forgot about the pain that I had, you know, and finally the pain went away. I never had nothing with my appendix or anything, you know. I just, more or less, I guess I was just worried, you know, and when I got back to the States, well, of course, I felt much better, you know. And I never did require an operation or nothing. Never did bother me anymore, you know.
When y'all got back in San Francisco, did y'all celebrate? What did y'all do?
Well, yes, I used to have some friends in Oakland, and I'd keep in touch with them, you know, writing to them every now and then when I could get a letter, because a lot of times it was hard to get mail. By the time you get mail to one port, you'd be in some other port, you know. So sometimes I was about 9 months before I could hear from my folks, you know. I never could get any mail, you know. And then you couldn't say much because they would censor. They would censor your letters. They'd cut them, you know. Sometimes I did say a little something, but when the letters got home, they were all clipped, you know. They didn't want you to talk about what's going on over there, you know. So.
What kind of stuff did they censor out?
Well, if you said anything about what was happening over there, or the raids or war, or how many people getting killed, or accidents that happened, or they just didn't want you to say anything like that, you know. And they'd censor all your mail. So it wasn't too much you could say. It says, I'm doing fine, I'm here, and that's it, you know. That's about all you could say. You couldn't say much. Oh, yeah.
What did you usually say to them?
Well, I couldn't, just like I said, I couldn't say much. This is Mom, Dad, well, I didn't have my mother, but I said, Dad, my sister, I says, how y'all doing? I says, as far as myself, I'm doing fine. Don't worry about me, you know. That's all I could say. I couldn't say, well, I'm here at such and such, I'm fixing to leave tonight because, or on a convoy or this and that. I couldn't say nothing like that.
What happened after you got back in San Francisco? Did you get discharged soon after that, or what?
Well, I had a 28-day leave, and I was transferred from the West Coast to the East Coast. I came to, I was shipped to New Orleans. Well, I came home on leave for 28 days, and from here I reported to New Orleans instead of San Francisco. And I was there just on standby waiting for a discharge. So I was there about 6 months at the Algiers base in San Francisco, in New Orleans, Louisiana.
What did you do when you were there?
Huh?
What did you do when you were in New Orleans? Was that just, what did you have to do?
What did I have to do?
When you were in New Orleans?
Well, mostly just odd jobs, just maybe work in the kitchen, something, you know, helping serving or something like that. I was just a standby there, you know, and that's all only duty. They couldn't assign me to anything because I was waiting for a discharge.
Oh, okay.
See, so I was just as a standby there.
Okay, and then you got discharged.
I got discharged.
And where did you go once you were discharged?
I came home.
How did it feel to be home again?
Well, it felt good. Felt good. And no sooner I got home and my supervisor that I had, well, no, one of the directors that was directing the store before I left knew that I was home, and he called the supervisor of all the stores here in Austin, H-E-B stores. He says, well, tell him to come by. We need him. So I didn't want to go back to work right away, so I started back to work in January. And that was 1946.
Was it different when you got home? Did you feel different? Was any?
Well, yes, I did. I had to get adjusted back to a different life. You know, I mean, I didn't have all that discipline that I had. You know, but seemed like it doesn't wear off of you. You know, you still have the same discipline. You know. Get up early in the morning, you know, and maybe they get you up at 3 o'clock in the morning. You're out there parading up and down the grinders at 3:30 in the morning, and at 5 o'clock you're having breakfast. And then you have a 30-minute break, and then you're back on the grinders again, you know, for drilling and inspections and stuff like that, you know.
So what would you say that you learned from the military that you like took back with you?
Well, for one thing, you know, my family was pretty strict with me, you know. We always had, I don't say maybe the best, but to me it was, because my father was a very strict man, and everybody liked him, you know, and he believed in doing what was right, you know. And that's just what we were taught, and that's the way I felt. But even though at that, when I got in the service, you still had more discipline, you see. And I mean strict discipline, you know. You either do it or, you know, you're in trouble, you know. So that was it. And I still feel like I'm very disciplined about what I do, you know. If I do something, I'm going to do it right. If I'm not going to do it right, I won't do it. So that's part of the discipline, I think, that, and it's just like I said, if I like guns. I have my son's a big collector of guns, and I have a few guns, and I like to keep them clean. I like to keep them neat. I like to keep them in order, you know, and I guess that's part of discipline, you know. If I dress out, I like to dress nice, you know. I like to look the best I can, you know, and I like to be presentable, you know, and that's discipline.
So that's what the main thing that you learned.
Right.
Was it any different when you came home because you had been on your own, like in the military? Not not like you weren't without authority, but you weren't with your family. You were off by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So did that change it in any way when you got back, or?
Well, in a way it did. In a way, maybe, maybe yes or no.
How yes?
Well, you learn to be a group of men all the time, No women, back in World War II, they didn't let no women get on a ship, like they do now, Now they're all over, I mean, they're aboard a ship, they're aboard planes and everything, So we didn't have that, it was just strictly men, And I guess you learn to listen to all kinds of languages, I mean, a lot of profane language. Like I said, a lot of people, families never raised their children, disciplined their children, and so you had all kinds of sailors out there, Just like I said, sometimes you went out with them. I didn't want no part of them because I didn't like the way they would act, and behave, and I didn't want to get in trouble, so I kind of stay away from it.
So when you came back, give me a brief kind of timeline of how the rest of your life went once you came back?
Well, when I got back, I felt that I had to decide on what I was going to do. I felt like I was growing up then already, and I had some good experience, and I needed a job really because to help my folks, So I went back to work, with HEB, and I started back with them, and I had already a good knowledge of the job, and they took me in right away, and I began. I started step again, from the bottom, and I disciplined every department in the stores, but there was still a lot of segregation. I proved myself to my supervisors that I could discipline any job in the store, and I could discipline any department in the store because I did it. I proved it to them. And he said, well, you know what, Jess, said, you look like a good man, says, and you seem to have the knowledge, and we're going to start sending you to relieve directors during the summer months, vacation time. So they started to send me to stores, to relieve some of the directors, while they go on vacation. Well, I go from one store to another. I don't know anything about that store, They throw it to you, so there it is, right there. This is what we do here. This is money we carry here. This is money we need for operations. They just go through your brief, routine, That was it. They'd hand it to you. Well, I proved that I could discipline the job, and I did a good job for them, and they were pleased. But they would never give me a store of my own.
How'd that make you feel?
Well, until I wised up, and I told my supervisor, I says, well, I says, sir, I says, his name was Mr. Eatons, he was a very nice fellow. I said, I done proved to you and the company that I can run any department in the store. You saw my work. You seen my work. You know what I do. I says, you send me to stores to relieve directors, managers while they're on vacation. I've done a good job. You know it. Why is it that I can't get a store of my own? He said, well, Justice says, he says, gave me all kinds of, He says, but, he said, let me tell you one thing. He says, as soon as there's an opportunity, an opening, he says, I'll let you know. Well, that went on for a good while, another 2 years, But then I could feel, I could see, I was the only Hispanic that was you know, that had that much experience and did all this, handled all these departments and managed all these departments, you know. And we'd go to meetings, we'd have meetings, and I was the only Hispanic, you know. But still, I could feel that they would never give me the opportunity, you see.
So what happened?
Well, finally I gave up and I told him, I said, look, I said, you know, you promised me and this and that. I've proven to you what I can do. I said, why is it? I said, is it because of this? Because I'm Spanish? I'm Mexican? He said, well, you know, he kind of, you know, he didn't want to come out and tell me, but that was one of the reasons. But finally I made him. And since I was kind of white, light complected, you know, well, that's how I got in. I was the first one here in Austin that became store directors for H.E. Butt Grocery and Company.
Which store were you at?
I was at number 8 on South Congress, the old number 8, which was further down. I was number 3 on 6th and Red River. I was in Hancock, Capitol Plaza, right down the corner. That's a clothing store now or something. Right there in the shopping center in Capitol Plaza. I was there. I was at number 6, First Street. I was number 1 on East 7th.
Did you feel like you'd accomplished something because you were now director of the store?
Well, yes, I thought, because I had a lot of confidence in myself, and I knew I could discipline the job, and I wanted my own store, you know. And but segregation kept me from getting it, you know. I mean, I had to really work for it and speak up for it. That's the only way I could have gotten. I got it, you know.
But do you feel like you made progress for others too because you did speak up?
How's that?
Do you think that you made progress for other people because you?
Well, I think I did. I think I did. Finally, you know, and people would tell me, sister, you know what, sister, we don't ever see any Mexicanos like you, you know. I said, well, you know, and just like I said, maybe what helped me was that I was more light complected, you know, than the rest of them, you know. And that's how I got in, you know. Now you see several, which a lot of them now, you know. But back in those days, it was hard. It was hard.
How did that make you feel when you had to like struggle with stuff like that?
Well, I felt good because I felt that I got to where I wanted to be, and it made my pride feel better, you know. I was proud of what I was doing, and I was proud of my job, you know. And overall, I guess it helped me because I made more money, you know, and I needed more money. I got married. I had 2 children. I wanted to give them the best I could, the best I could afford, you know, send them to the best schools. And God was so great to me that gave me good health and strength to pull through for 28 years that I was with him.
Tell me about, so you're retired now. When did you retire?
I retired from where?
From work.
Well, I retired from UT about 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago.
What did you do?
I was a purchaser at the Texas Union Dining,
Oh, okay.
a supervisor and a purchaser for them. I was there 17 years.
Okay, so you worked at HEB and then you worked at UT.
Well, I went, let me tell you, I left HEB. I took a good year's vacation. Then I went to work for my niece at El Galindo Tortilla Factory. You probably heard of it. She had a big business, and she wanted me to go to work for her, so I did. I went to work with her for just taking care of the personnel, employees, you know, supervisor. And it got kind of where I started working more hours and this and that. And my son said, well, Dad said, look, you retired from HEB because you were tired and it's long hours, and now you're getting back to the same track again, you know. He says, that's not good. I said, you're right. He says, why don't you just get out of there? Make an application at the University of Texas and get a state job. So I told my niece, I says, okay, I worked there for 2 years with her. I did a good job for her. She liked it. So, but she didn't come to my agreement, the contract that we had. And finally, when I approached her, she never wanted to approach me back, see. And I kept asking about her. I wanted to talk to, speak to her, you know. And finally, she never did come around. So I said, well, okay. I said, I'll give you 2 weeks' notice. I'm leaving. So I gave her 2 weeks' notice, and I left. And I stayed a while without working. Took another little vacation. And I placed this application at the university. And when I went to apply for it, the supervisor tells me, he says, you know what? He says, he had a stack of applicants about like that because they have to go so many months, you know, before they can make a cut, you know, and decide who they're going to hire. So he says, you know, he says, look at this stack of applicants that I have. He says, but, he says, so far, he says, you're the best one with the most knowledge and more experience. He says, but let me tell you one thing. He says, I don't want you to feel that I'm going to give you the job or you're going to get the job. He says, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you go home a couple, 2, 3 days. And I got a few more days to go on this before I can close this application. And he said, you'll probably hear from me. He says, but go on home, says, and relax, and maybe I'll give you a call. So I came home. I didn't think much about it. I said, I hope that he considers me, you know. He told me that I was the best applicant so far. I said, that has something to do. I said, it means a lot, you know. But he said he still had to go a few more days, you know, before he could decide, you know. So finally the phone rang one day, and it was him. He says, Mr. Guajardo says, I just want to let you know you got the job. He says, when do you want to start? I said, well, whenever you want me to. Well, I started, and I had my own office. I never clocked in. I went in at 6:30 and got off at 2:30 every day. I got 30 minutes for lunch, a 50-minute break in the morning, and they'd give me $4 a day for food, a card. Could eat anything I wanted to. I couldn't eat $4, you know, so nobody bothered me. I had my own office. At one time I had about 3 or 4 girls working for me, university girls, that checked the requisitions that we issued out from the storeroom, you know, to charge to all the departments, you know. And then I had about 4 men working for me also in the storeroom, filling out orders for the departments. And I did all the buying of meats, produce, groceries, and vegetables, you know. And I had these 2 young girls, well, they were maybe about your age or a little older, real good, nice-looking people, you know. And they were 2 floors above me, you know. And they were my supervisors. So they would never go down and check on me or more or less see what I was doing. And finally, one day I told them, I says, let me ask you this. I says, you know, I says, it makes me feel kind of bad. I says, because you never go down there and check and see what I'm doing, see if I'm doing a good job or not, you know. And I would feel much better if you would. He says, well, Jess, we don't need to go out there and tell you anything to do. He says, you're doing a good job. You've always done a good job. He says, we're happy with what you're doing. Well, there was no way that they could tell me what to do because they didn't know anything about my job to begin with. See? So they left me alone. They never bothered me, you know. And one of them's name was, she was a very attractive girl, Linda Bard. Real nice people, you know. But they never bothered me, and I was there 17 years until I retired, you know. And they didn't want me to leave, you know, but I said, well, I'm getting up in age. And I would see too many applicants would go there and apply for my job, you know. And I said, hey, you much younger. I said, I've worked enough already. I said, you know, it's time for me to quit. So I left, you know.
So how many years ago did you retire?
How many years?
Ago was it when you retired?
About 7 years, I think. But I was very happy, and they were very happy with me, you know. And that was the best job I ever had. I said, I wish I had better sense, and instead of going into the grocery business, I'd have gone and gotten this job with the state.
And what did you do?
I was a purchaser, food purchaser, for the Texas Union Dining. Because I had the knowledge. I mean, I had a lot of experience in the grocery business, you know, and produce and meats and all, you know. I'd order hindquarters, anything for parties, whatever. You know, we used to have all kinds of parties at the Texas. Now it's operated differently. After I got out, they changed it. Now it's not the state. It's not with the state anymore. See, they put all kinds of shops in there. You know, now, you know, and it's not a state job. Now, when I quit under the state, and I get a state pension from them. See. Now you don't. You just go out there and get a salary. You don't have no benefits at all. So that was it. And I'm still working. I work out there at my place every day.
Oh, yeah, you were saying that the other day. It's awesome. Tell me a little bit about how you met your wife, and then just a little about your family.
Well, I met my wife here in this area here, right close to my brother's store. They used to live a couple of doors there from there, you know. And we used to go sort of roller skating up and down and walk there, you know.
Is this before the war or after?
No, before.
Well, you met her before.
Well, a little before, but I never was that close to her that, you know, that I thought I was going to marry her, you know, until I came back, you know. I kind of got into my heart, I guess, you know, and we became friends, you know. And well, she knew who I was, and I knew who she was. Since I used to stay there with my brother, you know, and it was around the neighborhood here. And that's how we got together. And she was a nice girl. I knew that she was a nice girl because she'd come from a nice family. They went to parochial school, St. Mary's Academy here, graduated. And I kind of liked that, you know. I couldn't have found a better, nicer girl, you know. So that's how we got together. And we raised two sons, which we're very proud of because they're well-behaved men. They both single and live with me. 50 years old and 47 years old. They both work with Internal Revenue. My oldest one, I think, is almost close to 30 years with Internal Revenue. He's a investigator with the Internal Revenue, and the other one is a tax examiner. My oldest one works at the Arboretum. He used to work here at the Federal Building, but his office moved to the Arboretum where they have a building because it's cheaper rent over there. And my other one works out here in South Austin. He's been with them also about 28 years.
Are you proud of your son?
Yes, very proud. I couldn't ask for better sons. I never worry about them. They keep busy all times. They do a lot of work for church. My oldest boy, he teaches catechism for high school students. And he's very associated with church work. My youngest one, he plays in the choir. And he's also with the neighborhood association. We go to the city council meetings, and in fact, he spoke the other night, Monday night, I think. No, Tuesday night. He spoke at city council, my oldest son, Michael, about the neighborhood here, you know, about this big tract that you see here on IH-35. There's a big tract off the hill there in between 11th and 8th, 7th and 8th, right there's a big tract of land there. Well, they want to build a mall there, see. And we kind of been against it, not against it, we want, it's fine, providing that they do something for our good in our neighborhood, see. So they're thinking about placing a hotel right in the corner there where you turn on, you coming this way?
Yeah.
Where you turn on 11th there, off IH-35 right down the corner, that hill, they want to place a hotel there. And they want to build it, I don't know how many, a little higher than the one across there. But we don't want them to build it too high because we don't want them to hide the looks of the Capitol, because we can see the Capitol from here at night, you see. Oh, yeah. And a lot of things that, you know, our neighborhood, this is a nice neighborhood here. There's lots of people fighting for this neighborhood. You know, it's land. Everybody, I get letters, you want to sell your home? No, it's not for sale. You know, if you want to pay the price, you can buy it, but you're going to have to pay a price for it. And I give them a big price, you know, because I don't want to move out of here, because I'm very happy here. Nobody bothers you here. Everybody, we know everybody in this 4-block areas all the way around in here. Everybody's your friend. Nobody harms nobody. Nobody comes and breaks into your home. We're right downtown. We can walk downtown. We're right in the center of everything, close to the university here, everything, you know. So we're very happy here. It's a nice neighborhood. So they keep pretty occupied with the neighborhood problems and area here, you know. And that's my sons. That's what they do.
Have you gotten involved in trying to?
Yes, I did. I was sort of a vice president of the neighborhood association, but I gave it up because it kept me from too many meetings, you know, and it kept me from my place out there. And I admire my place because I like to keep it up neat and nice, you know, and I says, if I do this, I says, I get involved, then I can't do nothing out there for my own, you know. So I more or less let them do the job.
So what do you do, like now, on basically a daily basis or every other day? What's your life like now?
My life is take care of my place out there in the country, and I go out and have breakfast every morning, different places, or dinner or lunch, whatever, you know, and that's about it, you know. And I keep occupied 8 hours a day. I have raised a few little animals out there, you know, and I fool around with my tractors, and that's my life.
How do you feel about your farm? Because you always spoke.
Well, I like it. I like it, and I like it so much that I hate to get rid of it, but I'm planning on doing it.
Oh, really?
I feel that it's getting to be too much for me, you know. It's too much work, hard work for me. And I'm not supposed to work because I had open heart surgery about 4 or 5 years ago. And, well, during the summer months, you know, you have a lot of grass growing, you know, and you got to keep out there every day mowing, you know. And I'm out there in the hot sun, you know, and I'm not supposed to do that. And I said, my sons can't do it. They don't want me to sell it, but I said, who's going to work it? Who's going to keep it up? Somebody's going to have to keep it up. I said, if I don't, I said, it's not a good idea just to abandon it, you know. I mean, so I'm thinking on the idea of if I can get what I want for it, I'll sell it. And if I don't, well, I guess I'll keep it. Give it to my sons, I guess. But right now is a good time to sell. The money's good right now, you know. And I have a couple of people that wants it, you know, but I've never put a sign for sale on it until I I'm doing some repair work on it, and just like I said, these rains don't let you do anything.
Yeah.
You know, I can't. The other day I started mowing grass, and one of my mowers didn't want to work, and I was fooling with it, and finally I couldn't get it to work, and I couldn't do the trimming, and then it rained again. I can go back there, and I just, but I guess the weather will get good someday. So those are my plans, really, and that's what I do. I work out there 8 hours a day, you know. I'm out there every day. I enjoy it. I love it, you know, but I feel it's, why should I be working this hard, you know?
Would you be sad if you sold it?
Huh?
Would you be sad if you sold it?
To
Would you be sad if you sold the farm?
No, I wouldn't be sad. No, I wouldn't be sad. I got other things to do. I want to do something else. I have a double garage over there in the back that it's not attached to the house. It's a real nice area, and it's enclosed an L-shape, and I want to enclose it all in and make a nice apartment. I'm at sort of a studio, you know, and attach it onto the house with a breezeway. And then make me a real pretty garden, a cactus garden. I have some real pretty cactus from Tucson, Arizona, and Albuquerque, New Mexico. Beautiful plants. You don't see those kind of cactus around here. And I want to make me a real nice cactus garden with beautiful rock and put lights on it, you know, and fix, and just that gives me something to do. So keep me occupied. But then I feel that I'm more comfortable here because I'm here with my folks, see. In case something happens to me, well, I'm here, you know. Over there, I'm by myself. You know, I could have a heart attack out there, you know, and nobody knew anything about me, you know. So, you know, and I guess it's time for me to do something like that. I'm 75 years old, and I'm not a young man anymore. And I worked hard all my life, so I think I should take a little vacation. But I do go on vacation quite a bit. I go to California and stay a couple of months out there.
That's right. You're going soon.
Yeah, I'm going in April.
Okay. I have to get your address because I'm going to have to send the story that I write about you to you so you can make sure it's all correct.
Okay.
Do you have a house out there, or where are you staying in California?
I stay with my nephews. I got nephews. They're big car dealers out there. They have big yachts, big boats. We go out fishing. Sacramento Channel, you know, we've gone all the way up to San Francisco. He's got one of them's got a double-decker boat. It looks like a captain's boat, you know, I mean, with two decks, you know, you can steer it from the top or the bottom. It's got a plate glass all around. You can come out to the deck, you know. Oh, it's got kitchen, living quarters, and everything.
So you still like the water, huh?
Oh, I love the water. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. That channel is pretty from Stockton. You know, if we go from Stockton all the way up to Sacramento or San Francisco, mostly Sacramento, oh, it's a beautiful, beautiful ride in the water. It's pretty. It's a pretty because in Stockton they have real nice docks there where the ships come in, the channel, where the ships come and unload there. Canneries for produce and fruits and stuff, you know, feed and all of that. They come and load there and go out overseas, you know. It's a beautiful channel, real nice. A lot of fish in there, man. You see those big old stripers like that, you know. Salmon, God, some big old salmon, you know. We had a lot of fun. It's nice.
Do you have anything else that you wanted to talk about?
No, I could talk all day, but.
I think you got everything. Alrighty. Well, thank you.
Okay.
If I have any questions,